Welcome to The Hidden Layer, the show where we decode cutting-edge AI research. Today, we're moving past AI that just writes your emails. We're asking a way bigger question.
Could an AI actually run your company? And I'm not just talking about helping out with tasks. I mean, could it really be the CEO, managing people, landing clients, and, actually making money?
Well, today we're diving into a brand new benchmark that does exactly that. It throws the world's top AIs into the CEO's chair in a high-stakes simulation. We're going to find out which ones soared, which ones crashed and burned, and what that tells us about building AI that can truly think long-term.
And hey, for all you engineers out there, you're going to want to stick around, because I am going to reveal the #1 blind spot that caused even the most powerful frontier models to drive their companies straight into bankruptcy.
Okay. So here's the fundamental problem we're trying to solve. Our current AI agents, they're fantastic at short one-off tasks. But ask them to manage something complex over the long haul, where a small mistake at the beginning can snowball into a total disaster, that's where they tend to fall apart.
You see, most of the ways we test AI are kind of like a pop quiz. You get a question, you answer, you get immediate feedback, right or wrong, and you move on. But running a business is nothing like that, right? You make a call today, and you might not see the real consequences for weeks or even months. This new benchmark is built for that reality, to test what researchers call long-term coherence.
To do this, the researchers built a new, absolutely punishing test environment. So, welcome to the YC Bench Arena.
So let's break down how this works. The AI gets put in charge of a startup. It's handed $200,000 in seed money, and the goal is simple: survive and profit for one simulated year. And it's not some point-and-click game. The AI's only way to interact is through a command line interface, forcing it to actually analyze the situation, take jobs, and manage its team. And it gets way more complex. The AI has to hire and manage employees, and their salaries actually go up over time. It has to go out into a marketplace and win client contracts to make money. And if it does well, its prestige grows, which unlocks better, higher-paying jobs. But, and this is absolutely crucial, its short-term memory gets wiped clean every 20 turns. The only way it can remember anything long-term is by manually writing notes to itself in a little text file called a scratchpad.
But here is the real kicker, the hidden trap. About a third of the clients in this marketplace are, well, they're booby traps. They're adversarial. They lie about how much work a project will take, pretty much guaranteeing it will fail and lose money. The AI has no idea who these clients are up front. The only way to learn is to get burned and hopefully remember not to trust them again. So the stage is set for an epic showdown. Researchers unleashed 12 different AI models into this arena. We're talking the big proprietary players like OpenAI's GPT series and Anthropic's Claude, but also some really powerful open-source challengers.
And the results were absolutely brutal. This thing was so hard that the vast majority of these advanced AIs failed. And I don't mean they just didn't make a big profit. I mean they ran their companies completely into the ground. Bankrupt. In fact, out of all 12 of these AI CEOs they tested, only 3, just 3, consistently managed to finish the year with more than the 200 grand they started with. So who were the winners? Well, Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.6 was the undisputed champ, turning that initial $200K into an average of over $1.2 million. Wow. But the real surprise was right on its heels. GLM-5, an open-source model, performed almost just as well, but at a tiny fraction of the cost. I mean, that is a huge, huge win for the open-source community. But honestly, for me, the most fascinating part isn't who won. It's why nearly everybody else lost. So now it's time to dig into the postmortem and deliver on that promise I made you at the beginning.
And here it is, the single biggest reason for bankruptcy, we're talking nearly half of all failures, was the inability to spot and remember those bad news clients. The AIs just kept walking into the same traps over and over again, bleeding cash until there was nothing left. This is a textbook example of what the paper calls a coherence failure. The AI just couldn't maintain a coherent strategy over time because it couldn't remember its own history. And why not? Because it completely failed to use that scratchpad effectively, the one tool it had for long-term memory. It would experience a failure, sure, but it never actually learned the lesson.
Okay, so this brings us to what I think is the most important takeaway of this whole thing. How do we actually use these failures to build better, smarter, and more reliable AI agents in the real world? Here's the blueprint. First, you have to build in a reliable long-term memory system, that persistent scratchpad, so it can store key learnings. Second, it's not enough to just store the data.
Your agent needs a way to reflect on its own failures and update its strategy. Don't just log that it failed. Force it to analyze and write down why it failed. And third, you have to proactively hunt for these blind spots. Create your own adversarial clients in your testing to find out where your agent is naive before it ends up costing you real money.
And this is so important because this is what separates a clever toy from an autonomous partner that we can actually trust with important stuff. We're talking about managing a supply chain, running a year-long marketing campaign. We need AI that learns from its mistakes, not one that's doomed to repeat them forever.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. We've just seen how even the most powerful AIs in the world can be totally derailed by one recurring blind spot. So what's the hidden flaw, the adversarial client, that might be holding back the systems you're working on right now? Thanks for watching The Hidden Layer.